In a world asking the question, what if the movies that got delayed came out on time and they were different? That's the case in my universe. I'm Steven Schinder and you're listening to Delayed Replay, Season 5, airing every other Saturday, unless I change my mind.
Hello, listeners. Welcome to another episode of Delayed Replay, that podcast where we recap and review movies that got delayed in that other universe but came out on time in our universe. I'm your host, Steven Schinder, and joining me to talk about this Pixar movie, Elio, which came out for us in March of this year, I believe, but over in that other universe, they delayed it to next year and are putting out Inside Out 2 around the time this episode comes out. So joining me, it is famous animation director, Max. How's it going?
Hi, Steven. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah,
it's going well.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if you want me to say your first and last name. Like, I forgot to ask beforehand.
Oh, I don't mind. I don't mind. It's
okay.
It's whatever.
Yeah, Maxwell Silver, who made the 10-minute animated film Our Home at the Marble Run.
Yeah, which just released in our universe as well.
It's a fun film. I'll link it in the show notes, but yeah, it's great to have I guess you could say an animation expert on this sort of thing. You've made something about a robot. Pixar has made stuff about a robot a while back.
This film's got aliens. My robot's an alien. It all connects up.
Yeah. All right. So to start off, what's been your general experience with like Pixar movies? Like, how did you get into them, if at all, and what are your overall thoughts on Pixar?
Yeah, I think that's a good question, because and I think generally the feeling is that at the moment Pixar aren't maybe at the top of their game, whereas I feel like the Pixar films that I grew up on, things like Monsters Inc., Finding Nemo, they had a very big impression on me when I was very young, and it sort of feels like to some extent that they can't quite recapture that same magic. I don't know. How do you feel about it, Steven?
Right. So Toy Story was my intro, and I grew up as the Pixar movies came out and really enjoyed them. There were a couple duds, like Cars 2, obviously. The Good Dinosaur took me a while to watch, and it wasn't as bad as people said it was and I was expecting, but it still left much to be desired.
Yeah, I think that was like one of those cases where people were expecting a lot more from it than what they got, and it just ended up being more of a standard anime. I remember they were making a big deal out of like how hyper realistic they could make like water droplets and leaves and stuff, but it doesn't really matter if you're not making an interesting story, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird because the backgrounds look really good, but the dinosaurs themselves look like they're made of Play-Doh or something.
Yeah,
weird.
Yeah. I guess it's just a problem with 3D animation in general when it's not given the kind of labor that it needs.
Yeah, and I know there's a whole thing about Pixar sequels versus Pixar originals. I thought Cars 3 was surprisingly entertaining, but Cars 2 set a low bar. Finding Dory I remember liking, but then forgot. Like, I guess I had like Dory's short-term memory thing. I don't know.
I think it's funny because I think I have a similar experience with that film as well.
Right. Toy Story 4, like because Toy Story 3 was so good, I for a while wasn't sure that 4 was needed, but I was sold on it for the most part, and it got me emotional
Mm.
when I watched it. Um, Monsters at Work, have you ever seen that show? Or
No, I didn't. I didn't watch that. No.
yeah, it's pretty good. I talked a little bit about it on my YouTube channel, but yeah, I feel like it does a good job of melding the lore of both of the Monsters movies, Inc. and University,
Yeah.
while focusing on new characters. Um, and I feel like Lightyear is the divisive one. I feel like it wasn't.
Yeah.
I feel like it wasn't. Well, I didn't think it was bad, but it still kind of fell apart in the third act with a certain twist. And I also think the premise, like having the film be a 90s movie that Andy saw when he was a kid, kind of doesn't make sense to me. I feel like
Right.
it would have been better if it had been like a reboot movie that Andy goes to see with his kid or something, and he's like not so sure about the differences, but sees that his kid is happy and it's like, okay, I guess it's fine type thing.
Almost something a little bit more meta and self-aware of what it's, what it inherently is, I guess. I haven't seen the Lightyear film, so I can't necessarily comment on that, but it does seem like a more interesting approach to it.
Yeah, and out of the recent originals, I loved Soul, Turning Red. I thought Luca had some really good moments. So I guess maybe I'm a bit more high on the recent originals than you
Yeah.
might be. But
I liked Soul quite a lot. I thought Turning Red was good. I thought they were trying something different with that. I don't think. I mean, maybe with the exception of Soul, I don't. I don't think they have the same spirit in a lot of the originals that they had in some of those older ones. Maybe that's just nostalgia speaking, but I think generally, from a sort of storytelling, world building perspective, it doesn't feel. It feels a little bit more corporate, if that
hmm,
makes sense. Like they're putting out these stories because they have to, and less so with like Turning Red and Soul, because you can see that there's a genuine like passion for the stories that are being told, and that they're trying to tell different stories. But
yeah.
Lucas sort of just felt like much of the same, and I felt the same way with Onward, which I
Oh
guess
yeah.
everyone's just sort of forgotten about. Um,
I mean, I do like
yeah,
the world aesthetic at least.
yeah. I guess it's not that they aren't like ideas that could be like elaborated on. It just sort of felt like there wasn't much being done narratively that hadn't, you know, been like the Pixar hadn't done before. Sort of feel like they're retreading the same paths.
Yeah, I feel like with Elemental, I feel like that one had potential. I kind of wish I had explored more of the lore of the cities and the people and whatnot, but they
Mm,
kind of just didn't. And so I thought it was just
yeah.
fine. Um, Incredibles 2 I quite liked, and I don't know if there's a third one on the way, but there's this discussion where like it seems like Pixar are not sure if they should keep focusing on autobiographical things or just go with sequels. And I feel like I would rather they take chances on like unique experiences than on um like common experiences, whatever that means. Because I feel like if it's
Yeah.
gravitated toward common experiences, then it's more likely to be generic.
Well, that's one of the things they always tell you is you make a specific story, and it sort of in a weird way becomes universal. And I think that is the beauty of a lot of those older Pixar films, is they're about something very, very specific, and it's something very um, niche, and yet as soon as you're focusing on those like minute, small things, it broadens out to this very, very wide audience where suddenly like everyone is able to connect to it, even though we're talking about very specific characters. So yeah, no, I completely agree with you there, Stephen.
Yeah.
I also think it's interesting. In general, the animation industry is in a very odd place at the moment. Pixar have had pretty recently had some fairly major layoffs, which isn't standard for Pixar. The people who work at Pixar end up working there for quite a while, because obviously they're the top of the industry. So usually people who join Pixar don't end up leaving for a very long time. But they've recently had layoffs. I think it's to do with the implosion of streaming and the movement of focus to AI in the animation industry. Even though that's still in its early phases, I think it very much seems like studios are looking into that. I mean, you must have heard.
Yeah.
Who was it that said it about robots taking place of most of the animation workforce within the near future? I remember there was a big article about that. I think it was like the DreamWorks head or someone like that. I can't say with much certainty, but yeah, it seems like the future of animation is in a very odd place at the moment, particularly for Pixar.
Yeah, if that's true, then that's unfortunate. And I mean, Kung Fu Panda 4 from DreamWorks felt like it was talking about AI, and you kind of wonder if in that process they may have used AI during certain transformation sequences.
I see.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but and in our universe, the recent Pixar movies were able to come out in theaters and do decently enough to the point where they put out Elio here before Inside Out 2, but over in that other universe, like Disney just like kept Pixar movies out of theaters and put them on Disney Plus, and then like a few of them for a while anyway, and then once they re-released the movies that didn't really get to go to theaters, they didn't market them enough so that people would actually go out to see them. So it's like they really shot their own asset in the foot, and it's like, why would you do that?
I think you're right. I mean, I think was it Luca that was like a streaming.
Yeah, I think over there, Soul,
over in COVID.
Luca, and Turning Red may have all been Disney Plus. Onward was in theaters for like a week or two before all the lockdown stuff went down.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I get that it's a lockdown thing, but I think part of what we're talking about is in a sense that they've almost devalued the product in a way by making it part of a streaming package. I think that's the risk you end up running with that sort of marketing strategy, and I think it's very difficult for them to now that they've realized that they can't make all of their money from streaming and that they have to actually get people into the cinema. It hasn't done them well, especially given that a lot of those films that were going straight to streaming were their original concept films, and a lot of them most of those quite good in comparison to maybe some of the other stuff they've been doing. But yeah, it does sort of feel like there's they did a TV show as well, didn't they? They did it was like a Pixar TV show. I don't know.
Well, I know Monsters at Work is technically Walt Disney Animation thing. So I think it's a separate company, but
They did.
the
That was it. Win
the
or
characters feel
lose.
very authentic though.
Win or lose. That was, I believe, a Pixar TV show, sports drama.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah, I'm looking this up at the moment because I remember hearing something about it, and just thinking that's a bit of a weird choice for Pixar to be doing TV.
You know, for the 2020s, it felt like, okay, we're coming out of the sequel era, because in the 2010s it felt like
Yeah.
there were a bunch of Pixar sequels and a prequel. So things are looking pretty bright. You know, the first half of this decade at least has been mostly originals, but
Yeah.
then it looks like they might be pivoting back to sequels and such, which I mean, I've been surprised. Sequels have been pretty good from time to
Yeah,
time.
overall. I mean,
But
the trailers for Inside Out looked pretty promising.
yeah, I mean, for the first Inside Out, I was in the minority of thinking that was just okay. So I'm honestly not that excited for the second one.
Oh, well, fair enough.
So yeah, I don't know. But for Elio, this one was somewhat autobiographical because in our universe, Adrian Molina, you know, director and writer, said this is specifically based on a time he accidentally ended up on an alien spaceship and they thought he was their leader.
Oh, okay. Okay, so he went to space, is what I'm hearing.
Apparently.
He's the first kid in space.
Yeah, in our universe anyway.
In our universe, okay.
Yeah. So Elio is voiced by Jonas, I don't know if I'm pronouncing this correctly, Kibrayab, who's actually in the TV show Sweet Tooth, a Netflix show based on the Vertigo comics, which is part of DC, and I quite liked both the comic series and the show. The show ended recently and had a pretty satisfying ending, in my opinion, and really captured the spirit of the comic series ending. So yeah, sorry, that was kind of a tangent, but
no, that's interesting. It gives me a reference point for who we're talking about. I've seen stills from that show, but I've never actually had a chance to watch it. Though I've heard good things.
What'd you think of how they sort of redid the Pixar logo sequence for this with like the lamp?
Oh, I did. Yeah, I don't really remember that much, but oh yeah, no, I'm trying to think back now. It was like a flying saucer.
Yeah. The lamp tries stepping, you know, it tries jumping on the letter I like it usually does, and then the flying saucer comes by and abducts the lamp.
It got abducted. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. No, that was fun. Yeah. No, it's nice when they put in little things like that for us, because it keeps us guessing. I remember there was the one with Wall-E as well, where it fixes the light bulb and it's doing the yeah. It's always nice. It's little details like that we really come to Pixar films for.
Right. So Elio's mom, Major Olga Solis, who's voiced by America Ferrera, she works on a like secret military project involving space, and they kind of throw in this Easter egg where it's like she was inspired to do this after watching the Lightyear movie when she was younger. So
right, yeah, it all connects back into the universe. Yeah. Yeah. I thought America Ferrera was very good in this movie. Obviously, you know, she's in a great place right now as an actress, right off her Oscar nomination for Barbie, which like it or not, that her performance in that movie, I think, connected with a lot of people. Yeah, I felt like she was very well cast as this sort of single mom who's trying her best to. I mean, that's really what Pixar movies are about, isn't it? It's about parents and kids and their relationships with their kids. It always comes back to that theme of parenthood.
Yeah, and when you think about it, Barbie is kind of a Toy Story, like when you really think about it.
Nice one.
Yeah.
Different kind of Toy Story.
Yeah, definitely. Right. And Elio, he feels kind of alone. His mom is super busy. And because of an eye injury, an accident, he has like this eye patch that he wears because he's a little clumsy, so like he fell and then so well,
he's always out and about, isn't he? Because the mom's busy with her big top secret military job, and then I mean that's how the whole premise goes down is Elio calls up his mom and the aliens accidentally intercept that transmission thinking that it's the leader of Earth.
Yeah. And because he has an active imagination, this does surprise him when it happens. He is beamed up and onto the alien ship, but because, he's experienced at pretending and playing outside and stuff, and he is able to get in the role of pretending he's the leader because he thinks that if they think he's not the leader, then they'll like eject him into outer space or something, which I don't think he would be able to survive from that. I don't think.
It might be a little bit tricky.
Yeah.
Without any oxygen, unless he's got some sort of spacesuit on. I don't think that's exactly safe for him.
Yeah.
What did you think about the Council of Aliens in this film, Steven?
Yeah, I thought their names were interesting. You have Ambassador Therese, who seems like kind of has like more of a leader vibe, speaks for the rest of them sometimes. I think Ambassador Tegman has a really interesting design. It kind of looks like it might be influenced by Egyptian designs. Kind of also reminds me of the Pikes from Star Wars: The Clone Wars, who might also have a similar influence. Questa.
Yeah, I can see that.
Questa. It looks kind of like a butterfly dragon thing, which I feel like, or I guess kind of like a manta ray in a way. And I can see how maybe on paper this might have looked like a creative design, but it comes off looking kind of generic to me. I can't really pinpoint why, but Ambassador Helix definitely looks more generic, but I think that's kind of the point. Helix is kind of laid back.
Was that the one that was voiced by Jimmy Fallon?
Maybe, yeah.
I just remember him popping up and thinking, "What is he doing?" Kept laughing at all the other ambassadors as well. I thought that was very, very rude.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a weird casting choice, but I guess they gotta get the names that the kids will definitely know.
Well, they know him from all the TikTok clips of the late. Which one does he do? He's like the Late Show, or which one's Jimmy?
Well, I know he was Late Night with Jimmy Fallon for a while, but
Late Night with Jimmy Fallon. Okay.
Yeah, but I think he ended up switching over to the Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon.
Right, right.
Yeah, I
It's
don't know.
either it's either tonight or late or uh, night owls or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, not Noxtar owls. Who
Yeah,
knows?
those two.
Yeah, I've been like for the past 10 years, I've been kind of out of the loop on talk shows. Like ever since
Right.
Craig Ferguson ended his run on the Late Late Show, I was like, okay, nothing else is gonna really
See,
satisfy me,
I've
so why
I've
bother?
seen clips of Craig Ferguson, and that was always like I think I only started seeing clips from him a couple of years ago because and I just thought who the hell is this guy and like why is he actually funny, like you know what I mean, like this shouldn't be, this is late night
Yeah,
TV.
it's probably because he's
This should
not
be
American.
banned. Yeah, Scottish, very Scottish.
Yeah,
But yeah, no, very funny.
yeah. Instead of a
They should get
band,
him in Pixar movies.
yeah. Well, I mean, DreamWorks had him in the How to Train Your Dragon movies.
Oh,
So
oh, I guess that's all. They're all like Scottish in that, aren't they?
yeah,
Is it? Wait,
well,
is it Scottish? Just like Vikings,
yeah, they're like Vikings, Scandinavian, I guess.
Scandinavian, yeah. But
Yeah,
is that sort of Scandinavia, Scotland? Close enough.
yeah, same
It's
thing.
up
Everything
north.
in Europe is the same.
I'm sure they got a few Vikings there still.
Yeah, they should have gotten Craig Ferguson for Brave. That took place in
Yeah,
Scotland.
yeah, they really should have done. I could see him. I could see him roaming about, and maybe in the other universe they did.
Yeah, maybe. And there's that whole meme of like Pixar, the way they come up with their movie ideas is like, what if toys had feelings, of bugs had feelings, or what if
Yeah.
fish or cars had feelings, and when
What
what
if
feelings had
Scots
feelings?
had feelings?
Yeah. What if Mexicans had feelings like in Coco? I
Yeah.
can say that because I'm half Mexican.
Well, that one's like dead people, isn't it?
Oh
What if
yeah,
dead
what,
people
what
had
if what if dead people had
feelings?
feelings? Yeah, I
They
love
just happen
Coco.
they just so happen to be Mexican.
Yeah. No, yeah, I love Coco. The Spanish dub or whatever is definitely my preference for that.
Oh, okay. I didn't know there was one, but
Yeah,
I guess that makes sense.
yeah, you can toggle between on Disney Plus. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um.
Well, I presume they you make a film like that and you want to it obviously the market um in Spanish speaking countries is going to be very big, especially Mexico, I presume. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's all about the money, not
It's
sentimentality.
all about the money. It's all about the money. It's not at all a choice about like. Well, I guess it's a little bit of both, isn't it?
Right. Yeah. Um. But I think the favorite ambassador in this movie, Elio, like everyone's favorite who saw this movie, ended up being Ambassador Grygon, or I don't
Hmm.
remember if it's Grygon or Gragon, but he's voiced by Brad Garrett.
Oh
Um,
yes.
he has a cool design, I think. He kind of looks like the he's got like these sharp shoulders, and I couldn't tell if all of this was like armor that he wears or if it's just how his body naturally is. But apparently when he was born, he like ate his own mother, and Elio asks him, is that something your people do? And he's like, no, it was just a me thing. Everyone was freaked out.
Right. Right. Yeah. 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 It's a very casual but sort of quite dark line, isn't it? And I think all of those, like the character design and the lines, it all feeds into this sense that you've got this very sort of spiky, sort of quite grumpy character who's this great comic release for the whole film because you really don't know what's going to come out of his mouth next. Also colorblind, as we learn later in the movie.
Oh yeah, yeah. They bond because Grygon is colorblind and Elio can only see out of one eye at the moment.
it's a sort of what's it? See no evil, hear no evil sort of. What's the one? Oh, what is it?
Oh,
What's
as
the one
in
with
eye
Gene
for an
Wilder
eye.
and what's the one with Gene Wilder and Richard Pryor and one of them's blind and one of them's deaf?
Oh, I don't know what this is.
They made like a comedy movie together, and it must have been the 80s or something. I forget the name of it, but it's like one of them can't see and the other's blind. Sorry, one of them's blind and one of them's deaf, and so
Okay, it's
they're
called
like getting into these situations. What is it?
See No Evil, Hear No Evil.
Oh, it is See No Evil, Hear No Evil. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I was, I was right about that.
Okay,
But-
one of them's a blind man looking for a job. The other's a deaf man who runs a newsstand. Okay,
Right,
I
but
guess.
then you end up with all these sort of misunderstanding situations out of that because one of them, they'll one of them will say something and the other can't hear it, or one of them's doing something and they can't see what they're doing. I think there's a scene where they're like driving and they have to like, oh, I don't remember this movie well enough.
Yeah, I mean the premise
describing.
the premise sounds like it could be really hilarious or really annoying. Like it could go either way.
Yeah, I remember it being funny, but like more just based on performances than anything else. They're very physical actors, so you put them in these very basic situations, and they play around with it in these very interesting ways.
Right. It's not Star Trek without Gene Wilder, in my opinion.
Exactly.
So the reason that they beamed up Elio, like the reason they needed the leader from Earth, is because they're trying to gather forces to help them in their fight against these snail people from a planet that has a lot of forestry and giant bacon for some reason. Yeah,
right.
well,
And that was the whole thing, is like Earth's being put on trial, so they're trying to work out like whether Earth has the right qualities to help them in this fight.
yeah,
Right?
yeah. So if Earth is able to help in this fight, then they'll be deemed worthy of like not getting blown up and instead like join the communiverse, as they call this, like coalition of advanced planets, I guess. Yeah, I saw that there was a little bit of online discourse, like people were upset that it was called the communiverse because it almost sounds like communism, and it's like, okay, calm down. Calm down.
The communist universe. Well, I mean, certainly the right haven't been the biggest fans of Pixar recently, have they? What with all the one scene of lesbian couples existing,
Yeah,
all those sorts of things. Yeah, they're not big fans.
yeah, like it was just a blink and you miss it thing in Lightyear, and like, yeah. I think
Well, I
there's
remember
also...
there was one in Finding Dory where there was just like two women pushing a pram together, and people were like, oh, they're definitely they're not straight. It's not two straight people.
Oh, okay. I must have forgotten about that.
Yeah, it's like one shot. It's really like it's one of those things where whenever people are applauding Pixar for something, it's like one scene that they've done.
No, yeah, that was also an issue with Rise of Skywalker. Like it was only one shot in the background, and it's with characters who are like not main characters. And
yeah, exactly.
I know that like the characters have names, and one of them had appeared in the previous movie, I think, but it's not a character I really remember that well, so it doesn't really feel like it matters
I mean,
that much.
it's good to normalize things, but the thing is, I think they're very reluctant to foreground those sorts of things, and I get it to some extent. You know, it's when they're looking for international distribution, that's something that just like if it's too major in the plot, then they just can't get it. You know, certain places, especially in like the Middle East, you know, certain things you just get banned. You get your movie banned. So I guess if they're looking for those kinds of international releases, it makes a lot of sense that they'd be pushing it to one side. I did very much feel like that with Luca as well, where a lot of people were sort of interpreting like a gay relationship between the two main characters, which, you know, is fine, whatever. But it did sort of feel like Pixar was sort of having their cake and eating it, that they were able to create that without like that kind of buzz, without really committing to it within the film. If that makes sense.
Yeah, like I don't know if like a gay relationship was the intention with Luca. Like I think I heard,
no,
like,
but it was what it ended up being interpreted as by a
no,
lot
yeah,
of
I know.
people.
Like I'm saying, it would have been like, you know, it would have been fine if it was, you know, even if it's not the original intention. I think it would have been fine if it was, but of course, since people interpret it that way, and you know, like we said, unfortunately, it's all about the money. So like they end up like with some of these things trying to be too cautious, whereas something like Monsters at Work in its second season actually had a bit more in the foreground, so which was a nice surprise.
Right. Oh, okay. Yeah, I am surprised by that.
Yeah, and
especially as it was more of a kids show, so I suppose, or from what I hear.
Yeah, and I think a couple Star Wars TV shows might be leaning a bit more into it. Like I remember in Young Jedi Adventures, one of the characters, and this is a kid show, one of the characters has two moms and refers to them as mom and mama, which was interesting because I never really thought of like, would you call one parent a different thing than the other if they're the same? So
yeah, because I suppose they would just have the same name, or do you just call one of them Dad?
Right. Right. So yeah, Disney definitely, you know, Disney and maybe Pixar. I don't know if maybe Disney makes like the big decisions of like, okay, you can't do too much of this. Maybe it's on them, but it does feel like they're trying to appease like all the types of people, you know, those who are for and against queerness. And in doing so, they try patting themselves on the back when they do depict these things, but really like they're doing the barest minimum in these instances, and it's not really congratulatory worthy if they're not doing as much. Like Strange World actually did a pretty good job, I'll give it that. I know people weren't like the biggest fan of that movie, but I quite liked the diversity in that film and the father-son conflict. Like I found it really refreshing.
Oh, okay. That's cool. I didn't get a chance to check that one out either. Sorry, you've introduced me as an animation expert, but I've not seen half of the animation.
Yeah. How have you not seen every animated film ever?
No! I don't have an encyclopedia in my brain.
Do you even watch anime?
No. What's Attack on Titan? I've never seen that.
Yeah, Attack on Titan is one of those things that is like really cool when you watch it as a teenager because of how gritty and edgy it seems, but then it gets boring the further it goes.
You start to realize that there's not really anything going on. Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah, but
I did
speaking
sort of
of
give up on it.
attacking titans, so they
Mhm.
get to this forestry slash bacon planet, and the giant snails are there, and yeah, they are super menacing. Apparently, these snails have arms and legs, which made me feel really uncomfortable. What'd you think of
Mm.
their designs?
It was a little bit uncanny for a Pixar film, certainly. Yeah, I think they should be putting their their special 3D engine technology to better use than hyper realistic snails. Um, but yeah, I what did you think about their faces? Because they to me they seemed almost like they were wearing masks or something.
Yeah, their faces looked kind of like the heads of like a dung beetle type thing. Um,
Mm,
so you'd have these protruding parts of their face, and it looks like a mask. So um,
they all had
yeah,
like slightly different patterns on them, so you could tell. And even on the shells as well. The shells, the I guess that was the only part of them that really looked like a snail, but the shells had different sort of designs. Uh, I remember one had a big star on it, and then there was another one that had, more of like a polka dot pattern on it.
yeah, one of
Just
them.
little small things.
Yeah, and one of them had like a drawing of a bean.
Mm, yeah. Did you catch any of the like smaller references? The Pizza Planet truck, of course. You saw the
Yeah,
logo
yeah,
the Pizza Planet logo on one of the snails. Maybe it was sponsored by the Pizza Planet Corporation. I didn't know that existed in space, but apparently, I guess so.
yeah, and another one of the shells had like the star design that's like on the ball in Toy Story or whatever.
Yeah, the Luxo Bowl, of course, yeah. I didn't
Yeah.
think about that when I was talking about it just a second ago, but yeah, I guess it must be a Luxo Bowl reference.
Yeah, I feel like as Pixar movies have gone on, the Easter eggs have been more subtle, which is refreshing, I think.
Mm,
Um,
mm.
but yeah, one of these other snail shells also had the 95 and Lightning logo that's on the side of Lightning McQueen.
Ah, yes, yeah. That's a classic one. Yeah. What's the they always put in a number. I seem to remember. What's the number they put in? Because it's
A
something to do with
yeah,
CalArts,
it's
right?
A113.
A113, of course it is. Did you see that pop up? I don't remember it.
Yeah, it was very quick, but it appears on this there's this lab on the ship with experiments
Hmm.
going on. It's like the
Yeah.
room number of that lab. Um, and it's where they actually have these chemicals that give Elio some strength enhancing powers. So what'd you think of the powers that they gave him here?
Mm, yeah. I mean, well, the chemicals just sort of look like water. So,
Yeah.
it's just this sort of clear looking liquid. Um, but yeah, the powers felt very sort of generic superpower sort of things. I get it. You need something to pull out of the bag to defeat the giant snails and all that. But it did almost feel like it turned into a bit of a Marvel movie at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, the powers, he's able to shoot lasers from his wrists, which, I guess that's a little Buzz Lightyear Easter egg.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
it's kind of weird because like it comes out of his skin, so it's like, it feels kind of
yeah.
strange, like when,
Sort of almost like a heat vision sort of thing.
yeah, but instead of out of his eyes, it's out of his wrists.
I wasn't
But
expecting that much blood, I have to say. You know, for a Pixar film, it got surprisingly violent
yeah,
with the snails.
yeah, they had to color the snail blood green so that they could get
Yeah.
away with it. From his eye, he shoots out like these ice what are those things called? Those like sharp ice things that like hang from the a
Oh,
cave
like
ceiling.
icicles?
Yeah, icicles.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and
I do
like
remember
as
that,
he
yeah.
does it, he's like, "Oh, I'm getting brain freeze."
Oh yeah, yeah. I have to say some of the one-liners in this film didn't really get me. That was one of the ones I was like, yeah, you know, they could have thought about that a little bit longer, but you know, you got to get the movie out right. You got to make a movie.
Yeah. I mean, nobody can top Arnold's Mr. Freeze one-liners when it
No,
comes to
yeah.
these ice
I
things.
mean, really, he's done them all. So there's not much real estate left in the ice pun area.
Yeah.
It's all
So
being claimed.
yeah, so he's able to take down some of these snails, but when they really get a bigger advantage is when they realize, oh wait, these giant bacon things have salt in them. So
Hmm.
like they end up extracting salt from the giant bacon and using that on the snails.
Yeah, and as we all know, snails and salt don't do too well together.
Yeah, and they also like, before fighting these snails, they make a point to like scan the planet and I guess on their machinery they're able to see that these snails have no souls.
Hmm.
Because they do scans on themselves and you can see like the
Yeah.
souls, the soul. Um,
Well, it does sort of you know um it gives them an excuse
gosh.
and you don't really have to feel bad about it because they've got no souls in the end.
Right. Because obviously genocide should not be committed against people, but since these
Yeah,
snails
but if they
are
don't have
like,
souls, then it's sort of like, it's not a big deal.
right, like these snails are like creations of the like the way they explain it is like they kind of just got like secreted out of like mushrooms and stuff and are just kind of like lifeless blobs that just do
Mm,
harm to people and
yeah, and
like
they've got they're
they
like a
go to
hive mind almost.
yeah, and they go to planets to basically they want to like smother all the planets their uh with themselves, I guess, by like
Which
rampaging
is,
over the
is
place.
a lot of times it's all about, we need to take the resources or, like Independence Day where they need really needing that. The aliens come for a reason, don't they? They're like, we need your air or your water or some rubbish like that, right? Usually
Yeah.
it's something like that. But to have this sort of change in pace where we've got these sort of snails who love to see things in pain that have no souls. Really, it's just you have to think that the Pixar are getting into some political commentary here that they're really they're really trying to tell us that we shouldn't feel bad about getting rid of things with no souls.
Yeah.
Like snails.
Yeah, I mean there's even like Elio mentions that there are people in France who eat snails, and you see a quick clip of someone eating at a restaurant. And if you look in the background, it's like the La Ratatouille restaurant. You see the
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, I forgot about that Easter egg, that delightful um, little reference because I was a big fan of Ratatouille. That's a great one.
yeah. And I forgot to mention, Elio has a couple toys with him. He has the Tin Man, so like a Wizard of Oz reference, but he also has the tin toy, from that very early Pixar short with the terrifying looking baby.
Oh, of course. Yeah. God, that's a weird one.
Yeah.
I guess early days for Pixar. Took him a while to get things right.
Yeah, I'll choose Boss Baby over that scary looking baby. So yeah, they're able to like get the advantage against these giant bloodthirsty snails. And obviously all throughout this, Elio is missing his mom. When Grigon talked about eating his own mom, it was kind of a reminder that like, oh, Elio, you should be thankful that you have a mom. And we cut back to what she's up to during all this every now and then. What do you think?
Well, that was sort of a poignant moment in the film when he was talking about eating his mom, and we get to finally hear that character's backstory. And it really, I heard some people starting to tear up in the cinema because it was really, we really got some humanity for our alien character. If you'll forgive the play on words there.
Yeah. Yeah, he's definitely like, I don't know, Brad Garrett just has a funny, he has good comedic voice acting in general. And like in live action stuff too, he's like good at, I don't know, it's just nice to have a voice like his, I guess. But what'd you think of how Elio's mom, Olga, like how she's reacting to her son being missing, like all the stuff she's doing on Earth during all this?
Well, yeah, no, obviously she's, a military scientist, so she's trying to figure out a way to get her kid back. And so we have a very sort of wacky secret NASA team, very diverse team of NASA. They're not like exactly NASA, but it's like alien NASA basically. Space Marines. I'm sure that's something we're going to get very soon. But yeah, they were just sort of writing equations on whiteboards and blackboards and all sorts of sci-fi gadgets. Yeah. I don't really remember it that well.
Yeah, and apparently these equations don't make any sense if you're like a real scientist watching the movie. So that was kind of a nitpick that people gravitated towards, and it's like, you're really reaching here. Like there are some things that are valid criticisms of this film, but I feel like you're kind of reaching there with the fake equations.
Did Neil deGrasse Tyson come out with a with a video saying how they were all fake?
Yeah. I think it was like a 20-minute video, and he had all these screenshots and was zooming in on them and explaining how they wouldn't work and what to do instead, that type thing.
Man, he really does take things too seriously sometimes. It's just entertainment. Come on, Neil.
Yeah. But eventually they're able to come up with this equation that creates a portal to wherever Elio is, basing it off of the transmission energy or whatever that happened during the communication.
It almost looks like something straight out of Rick and Morty.
Yeah, it had like the green.
It was like bright green circular portal. It's like, yeah, okay. We know what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, it's at least different from the You know, they could have very well gone more corporate and made it look exactly like the Avengers Endgame portals, but they didn't. So,
Oh, like the Doctor Strange sort of thing.
oh yeah, there's that.
Fire portals. Oh, what do you mean? Which one?
Yeah, like I think Doctor Strange makes like fire portals, but I think there's also like
Yeah,
I thought there were like maybe I'm misremembering. In my head I was thinking there were also like bluish ones in Endgame, but thinking back, I think they are
maybe.
like fire portals like
I don't
Doctor
remember.
Strange makes.
Yeah. Well, we can make them blue. We can change it. We'll release the Steven cut.
Yeah, I mean people have already like made their own fan edits of that Avengers Endgame scene. I think there's one that has like a lot of characters from movies unrelated to Marvel, and I never got around to watching it though. So
That sounds funny.
yeah,
The power of editing.
yeah, the power of. I mean, is it creativity if it's just mixing
Yeah,
everything that
creativity
exists?
with a question mark.
But speaking of creativity and
Mhm.
lack thereof, um, Olga and appears like right next to Elio, like without much of a challenge. Although the aliens do
Hmm.
like wonder who she is, and she's like, "I'm his mother," and like when they find out that Elio is actually a kid, they get really upset and they're like, "You lied to us," and their feelings get really.
Yeah,
So I guess
yeah,
this is what if aliens had feelings.
yeah. I mean, well, the thing is, Elio does come back and defeats the snails, so you know he does get a chance to prove himself in the end. But yeah, it's that standard classic low point for the hero, and he decides not to go back through the portal to go home, which is the big like big turning point.
Yeah, and he feels like he has a place here. He basically says Earth is boring. Like he says it in a way that is supposed to feel more emotional because of the music, but when you
Yeah,
take a step back to think about it, it's like this is a really weird choice. Like just this kid wanting to just stay in space because Earth
yeah.
is boring. Um,
Well, I think he gets a certain joy out of killing snails, Stephen. I think he really just grew to like it.
yeah. Yeah, I don't like the message of this movie all that much. I like in order to gain validation, you just have to kill things.
Well, specifically snails. Other
Right.
things might have souls, but snails definitely don't. Which is why you shouldn't feel bad if you accidentally step on one.
Yeah, there's also a planet that has giant slugs, but they do a scan and those do have souls for some reason.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, I do. I remember that. Yeah. Yeah. You shouldn't be killing slugs.
Right.
That's just cruel.
Yeah. You're like the worst person ever if you kill slugs. So it kind of seems like Elio is saying goodbye to his mom, and it's like, why is his mom like just letting him do this? Like, what?
Yeah. No. Yeah. You would have thought that's sort of bad parenting, but I guess the moral is you gotta let your kid go off and kill some snails.
So she goes back home because she's like super busy with her work, so it's like she's not gonna be that great of a parent anyway, I guess. This is a really weird turn for the movie, and I guess I can kind of see why they're pivoting toward doing sequels instead if they can't really think of a great way to like construct this story. I mean, maybe this will be better in that other universe, hopefully, but yeah, she goes back home and then there's a time skip, like a 5 years later type thing, and we see Elio beam down for a visit, and he's older, and it's kind of like a little reunion before the credits, I guess.
Hmm. And he says, "I love you, Mom." And then it's like a callback to earlier in the movie because that's how he gets caught by the aliens in the first place.
Yeah, yeah. It's the most unique line in this movie. I love you, Mom.
Yeah.
It's never been said in any other movie.
It was the first time that's ever been said on screen in any movie. It's like Hitchcock flushing a toilet. It's truly revolutionary. Yeah, no, this went in a surprisingly dark direction.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what they were on when they made this version of the movie in our universe.
Yeah. I think someone at Pixar was going through a breakup with a snail.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe maybe they broke up with someone who loves eating snails, I don't know.
Someone French. Yeah.
Or maybe it was someone who worked on the movie Turbo. You remember Turbo?
I do remember Turbo. I've not seen Turbo, but I do remember that it exists.
That snail is fast. That snail is fast. I think that's how the song goes.
Yeah. Didn't that movie do well?
I actually don't know. I know it got like a 2D TV series on Netflix, but they do that with all their DreamWorks shows.
Yeah, that's true, I guess. Yeah. But, yeah. Why that exists, I have no idea.
Okay, looks like it barely made more than double its budget.
Okay, so not that much. I'm sure it did pretty well in merchandise though.
I thought you were gonna say in France.
In France, yeah, they were probably watching that thinking it looked delicious. They were licking their lips like, ooh. I wonder who gets to eat the snail at the end.
Right. So I guess we could go into final thoughts and score out of 10. So what are your final thoughts and score out of 10 for Elio?
Yeah, I thought it was, as I said, surprisingly dark, thoroughly entertaining. I think it's a return to form for Pixar, and I'm hopeful about the future. Hopefully, the AI stuff and the issues with layoffs and such isn't gonna have much of an impact on the studio. So I gotta give it an 8 out of 10 for those reasons.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, high praise.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go a bit lower because I was kind of baffled by some of the choices in this. Like it was kind of fun to watch because of the absurdity of it, but I don't know if this is what a Pixar movie should be. Like, hopefully it's better in that other universe when it comes out next year there. But yeah, I thought
sane.
Yeah, I thought that this could have cooked a bit longer, as they say. So I'm gonna give this 6.75 snails out of 10. Oh, I forgot to ask you, what's your unit of measurement for your score?
Oh, snail slimes.
Okay. Yeah, from the giant snails. Yeah.
From a giant snail.
All right. So yeah, I guess that'll do it. And yeah, again, and I hope the future for Pixar, I hope whoever is like, the people who drag it down into the animation industry in general, I hope they get their act together.
Yeah.
using AI to cut corners, it's very lazy, and it feels better when you have people with passion really working on these things.
Yeah, absolutely. Like Bob Iger, he's never been a money man. He's all about the product in the end. The final movie.
Yeah, I can't tell if you're being sarcastic or not because I get my bobs mixed up.
Yeah, Bob Iger is the one who was like, when the strike was happening, he was like, yeah, and this is going to go on for a while until we can starve them out.
Oh yeah, the strike in that other
Yeah.
universe, yeah.
Yeah, in the other universe, when the actors and writers went on strike.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically just a great guy all round.
Yeah. Maybe someone can, maybe someone of our generation, or I guess you're technically Gen Z and I'm a millennial, but maybe someone could like name their child Bob, and then that'll make their child more likely to become in charge of Disney and like really fix everything.
It's almost like a prophecy.
Yeah.
I like that idea. The companies should just hire people with the right name and for no other reason.
Right. All right. So thanks for joining me again, Max. I don't know, tell the people where they can find all your stuff.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Stephen. You can find me on at NoxstarL on Instagram and YouTube, which are like, I think I'm also on Twitter, but I don't think I've even updated my profile picture there, so I don't use it. But yeah, no, thanks for having me.
Yeah, for sure. And again, people, check out Our Home at the Marble Run. You can find it on YouTube, and I also have a little voice cameo there as well. So
see if you can spot that little Easter egg.
Yeah, it's better than every single Pixar Easter egg.
It's the greatest reference ever.
All right.
Thank you, Stephen.
Yeah, of course. All right. And yeah, that'll do it. And without further delay, have a good day.
So yeah, go ahead and check out Our Home on the Marble Run. And funny enough, the robot makes harmonica noises. And recently I was listening to a bit of music that had a harmonica in it, and it reminded me of that animated short. So yeah, check that out. And you can also email this podcast, delayedreplaypodcast@gmail.com. Let us know your thoughts on we went from El Muerto to Elio, and I forgot to do this last time. So your thoughts on wrestling and snails. So yeah, and you can follow me at Steven Schinder on Instagram, Twitter /X, Threads, Steven Schinder Storytelling on Facebook, and I'm on Goodreads, Letterboxd, StevenSchinder.com for info on my novels, Standalones and Stepping Stones series, which includes Lemons on My Grain and Trespassing Through the Visages. And also in my universe, the Delayed Replay universe, that TV show from Pixar, Win or Lose, did come out. Involves softball and such. And I normally don't really care for sports unless I care about the characters. And I feel like this did a pretty good job, showing each character's perspective. So yeah, I thought this was quite good. I'd give it an 8 out of 10 softballs, I guess you could say. But yeah, I guess it came out, I guess, toward the end of last year for me, and maybe it's coming out this year for that other universe. I don't really know, but hopefully it's great there as well. Good or great, whatever. And yeah, I think that's it for me. And here are some words from my other self from that other universe, and yeah. Hey everyone, so I'm trying to think, what do I have to add here review-wise? I mean, I have the YouTube channel, Steven Shinder Reviews, in video form. I've been talking about Doctor Who episodes, been enjoying those, and The Acolyte, which, the new Star Wars show, the first two episodes I wasn't so enthusiastic about, but the third one, which came out the other day, I thought was much better. But I see mixed things online. But yeah, it is what it is, I guess. Unfortunately, you know how fandom can be sometimes. So hopefully, fandom gets better in general. But yeah. I also have a review of Furiosa up there. It's an incredible film. Should have made more than it ended up making. And yeah, in terms of Pixar related stuff, you can also check out the Monsters at Work video that's on there. Monsters at Work unites the Monsters universe. Talking about Monsters Inc. and Monsters University feeling more cohesive thanks to the show in a way. And like my other self mentioned, Sweet Tooth did finish, and I also finished watching it before going on a trip recently. And yeah, it's a really good show. I'm glad it concluded. I think season one was my favorite of the three seasons, but overall, really good at reinforcing that message that children who are different should feel safe. Like they deserve all the safety that they can get. And we should get along with people who are different and whatnot. So yeah, it's a very heartwarming show, I would say. And animation-wise, I haven't been watching much lately. I mean, my Adventures with Superman came back recently. I think the new season is 4 episodes in now, and I've been really enjoying it. So, yeah, we're really blessed with Superman content right now. They really get the characters down pretty good. And, yeah, I was talking with my delayed replay self about this. So he says that Craig Ferguson is not in the movie Brave over there. He is in Brave over here, but apparently over there, the character is played by Jeff Peterson, the robot skeleton, who was on the Late Late Show with Craig Ferguson. So yeah, just a little difference between our universes, I guess. And I mean, another difference is that the delayed replay universe got that Pixar movie Newt, which was talked about on the podcast a while back. So yeah, just a little updates here and there, I guess. And this podcast will be back in 2 weeks, 2 Saturdays from now, as you're listening. And yeah, that's it for now. Without further delay, have a good day. Oh, and check out Yes Shift in both universes. Great interview with Richie Castellano of the Band Geeks, who have been touring with original Yes singer John Anderson and have an album coming out called True. And also, I saw a Jazz Sabbath show, Adam Wakeman and jazzy renditions of Black Sabbath songs. It was really cool. So yeah, follow that for music related stuff if you're into that sort of thing.